Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. If you did miss the last episode, we won the United States Grand Prix, and despite a very bad qualifying in the wet, we had the pace to make our way through the field, and we did get lucky though. With a Max Verstappen engine failure, he was 5 seconds up the road from ourselves, who was chasing down Lewis Hamilton, and that battle between us and Hamilton for second very quickly turned into a battle for the win. Even though I thought we had the pace to maybe catch Max, that was pretty much a saving grace for us and helped us get that win. Hamilton and Norris were also up on the podium, and it was a big swing in championship points in favour of Lando Norris. Heading into this weekend, Max Verstappen still leads the Drivers' Championship by 49 points to Lando, and then myself in third, we're 63 points further behind, and then Sonny Hayes is in ninth, 68 points behind George Russell, and Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 53 points to McLaren. Ferrari sit third, a further 73 points behind, and Apex GP, we sit fourth, another 95 points further back. And we've got some parts needing adapting to make sure that they are on the car for next season. Otherwise, it's resources and time spent developing these parts wasted if we do not try and secure them for the future of this team. And just the same with Austin. We have received a large amount of parts for the car this weekend into the aero department. So hopefully this will make a very big change for us going into this weekend. And these parts have launched us even further ahead of McLaren, even with them bringing upgrades this weekend. Mercedes, Red Bull and Ferrari find themselves on pretty much identical performance. Aston Martin and Williams bring some minor upgrades to slowly close down some of the gap to Ferrari. Sauber, though, now the slowest team on paper, with the Racing Bulls finally bringing some upgrades to get a little bit closer to Haas, as now we jump straight into the first session of qualifying.
What an atmosphere we've got. The fans have been here since dawn, and the stadium, the Faro Sol, is absolutely heaving. We're about to get set to set the grid for tomorrow's Grand Prix. It's qualifying day here in Mexico City.
And here in Mexico, despite the giant main straight that we go down in each lap, our top end speed is not very good due to the altitude, as we almost come into the back of Sonny Hayes there. That was very, very close. Very nearly a massive accident with our teammate. I was kind of using him as a little bit of slipstream there down at this giant straight, and yeah, closed up to the back of him, thought he was going to peel off to the side. Unfortunately, he didn't, so we had to take avoiding action even though we had already committed to the brakes, still expecting him to pull off to the side, let us through. That would have been a very nice tow going down the straight, but we ended the session surviving that near miss, with Verstappen fastest in qualifying 1 by 3/10 to Lando Norris. Our teammate is in third, he's 200ths behind Lando, and then myself ends up in ninth. We're 7/10 off the pace, and knocked out in qualifying 1 is Liam Lawson by 7,000ths of a second. Gabriel Bortoleto, Behrman ahead of his teammate Jack Doohan, and Carlos Sainz not making it through to this next part of qualifying, as we complete our first lap here in Q2 on a set of used tyres. So we're not going to go straight onto the new compound, and now we're on the new compound. And this lap will hopefully be a pretty good improvement. It's currently 6/10 of a second, and that will be good enough for us to claim a third position here in the second part of qualifying. And it's Lando Norris this time, fastest by a 10th to Yuki Tsunoda. And then our teammate Hayes is in 8th. He's 6/10 behind, and knocked out in qualifying 2. Charles Leclerc by 500, so very close margins. Pierre Gasly, Fernando Alonso, Kimi Antonelli, Nico Hulkenberg, and Isaac Hadjar not making it to the final part of qualifying, the shootout here in Mexico. And once again, going out, getting a banker lap in on a set of used tyres, and then we can go all blazing ahead on the new tyres. And unfortunately, it was a little bit of a scrappy lap, so we haven't made massive ground, only 3/10 this time around, and that's only good enough to put us into P7. So pretty disappointing, but not disappointing at all is our teammate Sonny Hayes on pole position for the Mexican Grand Prix, and he's joined on the front row by championship leader Max Verstappen, and the margin of pole was only 900ths, very close stuff. And Piastri will line up in third position, he was 2/10 down, and the chaser in the championship, Lando Norris, starting behind us in P8.
Back in the 60s, Mexico City would host the season-ending race, a party of motor racing. Well, we might not host the finale now, but Mexico hosts a party nonetheless. So welcome to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the Mexico City Grand Prix. We're a long way above sea level here in Mexico today, which could pose some cooling issues for the cars as they make their way around this 2.6-mile lap. 17 corners with top speeds in excess of 220 miles per hour, and watch out for potential overtaking into turns 1 and 4. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. Sonny Hayes lines up on pole position, and Max Verstappen lines up alongside. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Piastri, Albon, Joshua Pearce and Norris, Russell, Stroll, Leclerc and Fernando Alonso, Antonelli, Hamilton, Nico Hulkenberg and Tsunoda, Hadjar, Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto and Ollie Behrman, Doohan, Sainz, Gasly and Esteban Ocon lines up at the back of the grid. Which of these talented drivers will come out on top today? Well, it's been a long time since I last worked with you. Good to see you again today, Anthony Davidson. So here we are, 2.2 kilometres up in the air, which I know is an unusual feeling for you, Mr. Davidson, but for the drivers, it's even worse.
It is. The altitude can certainly get to your head, Crofty, that's for sure. Especially when you're walking up the stairs to the commentary box. I've seen it firsthand, ladies and gentlemen, don't you worry. But this circuit, the problem with the altitude is it takes away your downforce. You have to go slower around the corners because you've got less downforce, even though you've got Monaco wing packages on your car. That's the challenge of this incredibly unique circuit.
Okay, let's have a comms check, please. Radio check. Okay, mate, only 3 races left, and you've still got a chance at the title, but if we're going to win it, we're going to need some very special performances in every one of those 3, and it starts here. Let's see what you can do today.
And thanks to the penalty from Lewis Hamilton for taking extra components, we have been promoted up a spot, but we'll be going for the one-stopper for today's Grand Prix. It's going to be a lengthy second stint on the hard compound tyres, but we will have to make it work as the two-stopper is an estimated 10 seconds slower than the one-stopper. But it's all eyes forward as we head off for the Mexican Grand Prix for Apex GP, and it's a pretty good start for ourselves. Initially, it was a really good start against Alex Albon, but in the end, we're going to get the slipstream from Oscar Piastri side by side between Verstappen and Hayes for the lead. We're going to make it 3 wide. We're going to swip around the outside. Hayes is better than on the brakes than us, and we'll now go 3 wide for second place. We'll squeeze out Piastri and Verstappen as they continue to squabble for what is now going to be third position. So Max Verstappen has gone from the front row of the grid to now battling it out for third position against Oscar Piastri. Lando Norris, he's made up a couple of positions. He now sits in 5th position, or fighting for 5th position. He's currently side by side with Alex Albon behind the 2 that we're currently watching. Verstappen, Piastri, they'll continue to go side by side, but one of them's got to give as we go through this 1-lane section now of the S's in Sector 2, and it's Piastri that gets ahead of Verstappen, then it's Norris and Albon. So they've sorted those themselves out, and now to George Russell ahead of Lance Stroll, then it's the 2 Ferraris of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton rounding out the points after having a pretty good qualifying. He now finds himself further down, just inside the points after having to take that engine penalty. Max Verstappen is not wanting to hang around, but you can see there, with them having to battle so much, a little bit of contact there in the braking zone, and as I was saying, with them having to battle so hard at the moment for them to try and get these positions done early before the field kind of gets into a little bit of a rhythm here and maybe a little bit of a DRS train could start forming. They want to get these positions done early, and them battling has meant that myself and our teammate has managed to pull a 2.5 second lead over Oscar Piastri as Norris, he's now looking to take advantage of the battle that Max Verstappen's just in. Maybe Verstappen struggling with overheating tyres, having to drive the car a little bit extra hard to keep up with these McLarens, and he'll lose out, and he now falls to P5. But he's not, as I said, you want to get these positions done early in the hope that you don't get stuck in any sort of DRS train. I mentioned before qualifying here, you lose a bit of top end speed driving around Mexico here with just high altitude to where this circuit is, which means that, yeah, even though the air is thinner, meaning that the car is more efficient cutting through the air, the cooling of the car is compromised, and hence a less top speed with the engine having to work that bit harder. but we'll take a look now with George Russell. He's currently battling Alex Albon, so Albon had a ripper start, got himself up in a decent position, but now slowly falling through the order. And the straight line speed of that Williams here in Mexico maybe compromised a little bit. The Williams always known as a good car in the straights, very sleek. Unfortunately, though, here in Mexico, it's a little bit of a different story. He does manage to get himself up into 6th position once again, ahead of George Russell. But I feel like this is going to be a bit of a story of the race. With as long as you're behind a car that does have the DRS, you might be able to just get enough overspeed on that other car that you're trying to chase down to make a move into turn 1. That seems to be the spot to do it with that large main straight, as Leclerc is now trying to get himself past George Russell. So Russell, he was looking very strong at the start, looking like he was going to be trying to get himself a P5 possibly against one of the McLarens. Ends up, he's now down to P8, battling the Ferrari now of Charles Leclerc. Leclerc on the outside, is he going to be able to get the drive? He can get the drive into this double right-hander, and he'll take that P7 from George Russell. Russell falling behind. We get our first objective of the Grand Prix, which is to overtake our teammate Hayes, which a little bit annoying when it did come, because I'm not sure if you heard, but I actually have been getting out of the throttle at the end of this straight just to make sure that we're not overtaking our teammate, because at this point in time, I'm more comfortable defending from Max Verstappen with the DRS I'm getting from our teammate than I am actually probably trying to go for a move, because I reckon if he's been good enough to get pole position, he's probably got a fair bit more pace. But to get this objective done, I do go around the outside at turn 1, and that kind of compromises us through turns 2 and 3, and that may put us vulnerable for a run against our teammates. But we take the lead, we get the objective completed, and behind us, Russell now, he is looking to get himself back ahead of the Ferrari, so maybe he's taken a couple of laps here to charge up the battery to launch another attack, and he's going to look down the inside at turn 4. Is he going to get the move done? Leclerc hangs it around the outside. We'll give him the inside, but is he going to be able to get the drive needed? He does just get enough drive to shove his nose up the inside once again into that double right-hander, but I reckon George Russell's going to hold on here, as one of them's got to give, going through into this second sector here. The yellow flag's behind, and it's for a slow Mercedes. It's George Russell's teammates, Kimi Antonelli, and he is out with an engine failure. The first retiree of the Grand Prix comes at lap 7, and it's Kimi Antonelli. Very unfortunate for him, and that does not bring out any sort of VSC or safety car, so that car is deemed to be in such a safe position that we do not need any interference from the race director, no neutralization of the race, as we let our teammate through now. He was right behind us, and I think, as I said, he got pole position, so he's definitely got the pace. So I'm going to be better off as a bit of a roadblock for the 3 behind, Verstappen, Norris, and Piastri, than I am going to be battling our teammate, just costing us more and more time. So at this point in time, I think I'm going to be playing the team game here and defending from Verstappen or whichever McLaren is attacking, and just letting my teammate run through. Hopefully, though, we can stay within DRS, because that might aid my defense just a little bit going down the main straight. But at the moment, I'm pretty confident with the battery usage at the moment. Just using as much ERS as I can going down that straight, and then throughout the rest of the lap, because once you get past turn 1, it's pretty hard to overtake. Your only other overtaking opportunity is turn 4. So if I can survive at turns 1 and turns 4, then I'm pretty set to nearly set my overtake, ERS mode to none, save up the battery, and then just deploy it all down the straight once again. Might have to use a little bit on the runs from turn 3 to turn 4, but if I can just keep going doing that, I'm pretty confident being able to defend from Max Verstappen. You can see it's lap 10 now, and I'm still able to defend from Max, even though I've now fallen out of the DRS from our teammate. So our teammate, considering we have to turn off the ERS, going through sectors 2 and 3 as we get the elbows out and defend from Verstappen. So that was what I was saying. I just need to make sure I can survive turns 4 as well, because that time around, Max got a bit of a run on me exiting turn 3. I think he kind of realized I was using all of my deployment essentially down this straight here, and he tried to launch an attack into turn 4. I was wise to it, got my elbows out, forced him to back out of it, and otherwise we would have crashed. So using a bit of the max effect on Max Verstappen there, and managed to defend that one time round. But yeah, lap 11, we've fallen out of the DRS from our teammate, and we're still able to defend. So I'm very comfortable at the moment that we have got the ERS strategy pretty much nailed, as now Lando Norris is battling with his teammate Oscar Piastri. The two McLarens going at it, but those two battling has meant that Max Verstappen's put a 1.3 second gap to the McLaren there. So it's now kind of like a two-horse race now for second position, and then Norris and Piastri are battling it out for P4 and 5. An order check here, so our teammate does lead the race by 1.7 seconds, and then as mentioned, myself, Verstappen, Norris and Piastri round out the top 5. Then you find Alex Albon, and then it's the two Ferraris of Hamilton and Leclerc. George Russell, the only Mercedes left in 9th. Fernando Alonso rounds out the points, and then Tsunoda, Stroll, Lawson, Hulkenberg, Carlos Sainz, Isaac Hadjar, the two Hasses of Ocon and Oliver Behrman, and then it's Jack Doohan, Bortoletto, and Pierre Gasly currently sits last on the road with Kimi Antonelli, the only non-finisher so far in this Grand Prix. The two Ferraris, they're continuing to battle it out, so they've kind of fallen off the back of Alex Albon here. Albon's kind of in a little bit of no man's land. He doesn't have the DRS from the McLarens in front of him. He's 3.5 seconds down, but he's pulled out 2 seconds now to these two Ferraris. So that Williams is looking pretty handy in the hands of Alex Albon. Not so much his teammate Carlos Sainz, who's currently stuck in a DRS train behind Isaac Hadjar, and that's for P14, P15, and they've got all the way down to P18 stuck in that train, as now a battle for the final spot on the podium. You can see there, I went slightly defensive to there to try and break the slipstream going down the straight. We successfully do that, but now it's Verstappen versus Norris. The two McLarens have caught up, so it's very much now 3 cars battling it out for 3rd position, and if they can stop battling and they catch back up to me, this will now be 4 cars battling it out for 2nd position. Verstappen successfully defends, but now Norris is vulnerable to being attacked by Oscar Piastri. Is Piastri going to get the move done? He'll show the nose into this double right-hander, but as we've seen before, he's going to have to pull out because he can't go side by side through that S section, but he's going to attack on the next lap with the DRS. Lando has fallen out of the DRS from Max Verstappen, who's now trying to attack us once again, but we have defended it once more as well. Piastri now moves up into 4th position. It's Lando Norris down into 5th. Yuki Tsunoda has finally got himself now inside of the points. He makes it 2 Red Bulls inside the top 10, as now we're taking a look here at Lewis Hamilton. He has fallen away from Lando Norris a little bit. It's 3 seconds, and he's lost a position to Alex Albon now and his teammate. What's going on for Lewis Hamilton? Is he retiring? No, he's got a puncture, and so this will mean an early pit stop. Lucky for him though, it's happened in the final sector, so he's going to lose a few positions, but it's not like he has to do an entire lap on that punctured tyre, and so he's going to have to come in a couple of laps early. And now that we've seen that, me having my tyre wear icon up on the screen, that has got me slightly nervous now. That has definitely got me slightly nervous. Luckily, this is the lap that we're supposed to be boxing on, and so I should be able to survive to the end of the lap without a puncture. And you can see there as well, we need to stay ahead of Max Verstappen, so that's going to get postponed anyway when we come into the lane. So, but it was going to be good anyway if we couldn't just hold on for the rest of the lap. We nearly lose it onto the entrance of the pit lane there, just showing how little grip we've got, but we do make it back without getting a puncture. And now it's up to the boys and girls down the pit lane to pull off a good pit stop here for ourselves. Our teammate has continued on for another lap, so I would imagine he's going to be boxing this time around, and we're going to have to see how much grip we've now got on these hard compound tyres. As behind us, is that Piastri now ahead of Verstappen? It is. So Verstappen has lost out in the pit lane, and so he's going to have to slot in between Oscar Piastri now. But unfortunately for the both of them now, they've also come out in a heap of traffic on board now with Max. Is this going to be a slow stop? It's an awkward entry into his box, and it is a slow stop. It looks like the front right, maybe it was the slow one, and he only just misses out to Oscar Piastri. Is now, as I predicted, our teammate now is in the lane, so we've now got essentially our outlap to try and fly it around this circuit to see if we can get ourselves any sort of undercut here and see what will happen here. But our teammate pulls it in. Can our team make it 2 good pit stops? It looks pretty good of a stop, and he's going to maintain that lead against Lando Norris. In fact, it almost looks like the gap between him and Lando in the pit lane has grown. And so let's see where the exit's going to be. Where do we play? There we go. We're going to go through into the lead of the Grand Prix. And so the undercut has worked an absolute treat. It's now Max Verstappen, who also is going to get the undercut, as long with Oscar Piastri. Piastri defending from Max Verstappen, and it looks like is he going to be able to get it done? He has to be careful because Lando Norris now, he is right there, so he could also pounce if something doesn't go quite right for Oscar. But it looks like he's going to successfully hold on to that P4. He tried to go for P3, and it wasn't to be. The 2 Ferraris were battling it out. So even though Lewis Hamilton had to come in a couple of laps early with that puncture, the undercut was that powerful. He didn't really lose any time because he's now come out nearly exactly where he was, which is alongside his teammate. The 2 Ferraris were battling it out quite aggressively before we got to the pit cycle, as we let our teammates back through once again. We're coming out of the final corner. He was already tucked up right behind our rear wing. So it was really no point trying to fight this one. He's obviously got the more pace from us, and actually on that first lap that I was leading, I lost nearly a full second to Max Verstappen. So Verstappen definitely got the pace on these hard compound tyres, and I reckon if I just let Hayes go through, that's going to be better off, as he's already got me out of his DRS. So Hayes is absolutely flying here around Mexico, and up on the screen there we did get our next objective, which was to burn off some fuel. So we haven't been burning through as much fuel as we have been. I've kind of been a little bit scared ever since China, where we had those fuel issues. So I've always been slightly overfueling the car, which has led to a little bit of maybe extra weight on the car. But I've been kind of driving around that, hoping that I can just focus on driving as hard as I can, maybe a little bit of tyre saving here and there, but hopefully the strategy of being able to just overfuel the car, not have to worry about it, is going to pay dividends, and maybe down the track we can get a bit of fuel upgrades onto the car where I probably don't have to overfuel it that much, and the car is a bit more efficient on its fuel. But unfortunately, we actually failed that objective. So it wasn't by much. It was only by about 0.2, 0.3 of a kilogram that we didn't burn off enough fuel of. And this is what I've been talking about with how I've been defending so far down the straight. Even without the DRS, I've been deploying a heap of my battery going down the straight, and then a little bit more deployment going down between turns 3 and turns 4. Just to try and cover off that last passing opportunity of the lap before I start going into ERS harvesting mode, as Albon now gets himself ahead of Lewis Hamilton. So the Williams is looking pretty pacey here in this second stint. Charles Leclerc has now actually dropped Hamilton and Albon now that they've started battling. So this just kind of shows, even with the DRS and kind of like DRS swapping that they're currently doing, taking it in turns in passing, going down the straight, going through some of the corners side by side every now and again is actually holding him up to the point that Charles Leclerc now has over 3 seconds to Alex Albon, and the battling is going to continue. So I wonder if either Hamilton's engineer or Albon's engineer is going to say, hey, use battling is actually holding you up, and it's now making them vulnerable, because Fernando Alonso, he has now joined the party. He's now looking to find his way into this fight. He can now get himself up to P8. He was sitting in at P9. Is he going to be able to make anything work here around the outside at turn 1? It gives him the inside for turn 2, back to the outside at turn 3, and now they go side by side down this little short shoot into turn 4 with the DRS. But here is George Russell. Is he going to be able to get himself into this party a little bit? And these guys fighting has now meant that Hamilton, he's pulled away over a second from Alex Albon. So Hamilton has now kind of secured him now into 7th position. So Ferrari's hit 6th and 7th. Alonso will take that P8 away from Alex Albon. George Russell hasn't been able to capitalize on that battle just yet. Back on board with myself. We're now battling from Norris. He goes around our outside, and once again we get the elbows out, squeeze him out, and we manage to hold on into that 2nd position. But that's a little bit of a concern, knowing that Norris does have a little bit more pace than what we're able to defend with at the moment. So I have to be a little bit more careful with the way that I've been deploying my ERS. Try and make sure that I definitely have this turn 4 covered, because one of these times he might have just enough grip to actually go around my outside, and I can't do anything about it, and I could lose the team's first ever 1-2 finish here in Mexico. Hayes is absolutely dominant. He's been hovering just outside of our DRS, so pretty much down the straights I've been hauling, absolutely hauling, and being able to defend from the cars behind, and that also means that I get back within his DRS down the straights. But then through the last part of the lap where I'm harvesting, unfortunately I do then fall outside of that DRS, but it kind of works out well, because if I do get the DRS, Hayes could then become vulnerable, especially that I have got both Norris and Verstappen in tow, so that could then kind of turn it into a 4-car race for the lead of this Grand Prix. As now, I said before, the battle with Albon and some of the other cars around was slowing him up to the point now that that battle is kind of dispersed a little bit, and that battle is now for the final points paying position, and that is for P10, which is Yuki Tsunoda and the 2 Aston Martins, as Marcus come on to say that we've got an issue. Now, the last time we heard that radio message was in the sprint race at Kota, just last episode, and that ended with an engine failure. So I am really, really hoping that they've just seen maybe a small sensor issue, and that it's actually no big deal, because we are in such a good position. I think we've got the 1-2 absolutely nailed here. And no, it's an engine failure. 2 episodes in a row, we lost a win in the sprint race in Kota, but we then gathered it up and got the win in the Grand Prix, and this time round, we're going to lose a 1-2 finish for the team here in Mexico, with another engine failure, with only a few laps to go. We're about to start lap 31, only 5 laps to go, and it's all for absolutely nothing. Oh, man, that's heartbreaking, absolutely heartbreaking.
It's another victory and a champion's performance from Max Verstappen.
Well, are we looking at a champion in waiting today, Crofty, with that kind of performance? They were driving with the kind of lack of pressure that you quite often see when a driver knows, they just know within themselves that that championship is within their reach.
We had drama from start to finish, but in the end, there was only ever one that could take that top spot. And for those that have missed the Dutch national anthem, fear not. It's back again, because Max Verstappen is back on the top step.
And just to make matters even worse for it, with the simulation for the last few laps there, Max Verstappen is able to win the Mexican Grand Prix after my stone-cold defense, which I do honestly think we could have held on to that 1-2 finish, but it came to the end with an engine failure. Norris and Hayes is on the podium, so at least the team gets a podium out of the weekend. But yeah, very disappointing. It's not a victory. The rest of the top 10 is Oscar Piastri, Charles Leclerc, Lewis Hamilton, George Russell, Alex Albon, Yuki Tsunoda, and Lance Stroll. Myself and Kimi Antonelli, the only non-finishers of today's Grand Prix. Max Verstappen now extends his championship lead to 59 points ahead of Lando Norris. Then it's myself. We still sit third, 78 points behind. And then our teammate Sonny Hayes is now ninth, 56 points behind George Russell. And Red Bull lead the Constructors' Championship by 53 points to McLaren. Ferrari sit third, 82 points further back. And then Apex GP, we sit fourth, another 95 points further back from Ferrari. And our driver ratings, experience drops to level 81, racecraft loses some points, focus drops to level 80, but the awareness and pace gains some points for an overall rating of 86, which is a little bit tough to take. We've been on such an incline with our driver ratings, and one DNF kind of ends it. Our recognition stays at 59%, and it was the control electronics unit that failed in Mexico. We only have 2 of these for the season, so hopefully with the other one only at 19% wear, this can last the rest of the season without needing another one and having to take a grid penalty for a future Grand Prix. And if you did enjoy this episode, that's going to be it for today. So if you did enjoy it, please make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you for the next episode where we head to Sao Paulo for the Brazilian Grand Prix.